I moved to the UK towards the end of 1999. I was about 10, and the reason why I moved here was because my father was working in an Italian restaurant here. That's kind of like a second or third cook in just a local restaurant owned by an Italian woman that whose mother happened to know my mother. And basically, because my father was constantly out of work, he was only doing seasonal jobs as like a pizza cook, pizza chef, and he also had a market stall selling fresh seafood. But I wasn't really going too well, so my mother was like trying to persuade him to move here because he was a bit lost. And when we came here, I was instantly underwhelmed by how the city looked. It didn't really look particularly modern. It didn't look, prosperous. It just looked like, just a bit of a beaten down city. But then when I went to school here, I tried my best, to learn the language. But already then I could see that the kids here were not well behaved. There was a lot of, insults about the accent, my limited English, and also the Italian culture itself. So I had to experience a lot of adversity when I came here, and I feel like I didn't really have a support network. So I felt really alone and isolated, and in a way that I didn't have anybody that really cared. My father here struggled even to find employment. He only had a couple of part-time jobs in kitchens, and it didn't really last long because he was not really a chef or a cook anyway. He was mostly just somebody who knew how to make pizzas, and he struggled. He struggled to have work, to have employment. My mother just seemed concerned about supporting him as best as she could because she's an old-fashioned woman who has the belief that the man should be, the one that goes out earning a livelihood, and the woman just plays a supporting act. But throughout his life, he's never really been able to do that. My father, so it's always been a struggle financially, economically. I always remembered that we would always be able to not afford to go anywhere, to travel, because he was always constantly either out of work or just didn't have enough money. But anyway, obviously here in the UK there was more of a welfare support for people who struggled financially. My mother, because she's self-sufficient, she can cook, she can clean, and she's pretty much obsessed with these two things. So we were able to do that. But I remember we had to, when we came here, we didn't even have a washing machine, so we had to pile all the dirty clothes into dark bags and bring them to wash. So it was really, stressful at the time. You just feel like we were just struggling to get by in life. And but yeah, like I said, I grew up here, went to school here, I never really fitted in with the other peers, people of my age. I always felt like an outcast. So when I got to 16, I didn't really achieve much. I didn't really get a lot of great. I didn't pass a lot of exams because I didn't really put a lot of effort into studying, revising when I was going to school. But it's like I didn't really see any value of being there, both from a social perspective and from a learning perspective. So I left with just a handful of GCSEs, and I went to college. And again, because at the time my father was not working, coming home and seeing him just sitting on a sofa watching television, it kind of made me feel uncomfortable because it felt like this is a person who's pretty much stopped caring. He stopped feeling passionate about doing anything, and it was just my mother there who was just cooking and cleaning, and he was just the only thing he would do is probably bake something now and again and go out shopping, grocery shopping, and that was pretty much it. And then towards 2009, when I was 18, 19, he started to develop emotionally irrational behavior. That he wasn't happy here, that he was suffering and he had to leave, and he was coming to cry every single night to me and my brother that he had to leave. He was very irrational, very out of control, crying. And when he went to Italy, he was expecting people to basically looking after him, so he wanted his family, his brothers, to his elderly mother to give him pretty much money to make him survive. He had no interest in working. So after a few years, he developed again. He was exhibiting irrational, emotionally erratic and irrational behavior, and he wasn't really motivated to do anything. So my maternal grandmother used to regularly phone my mother saying, "Come on, pick this man up. He's not well. He needs you to be there to help him." And obviously, being the person that she is, devoted and subservient and a servant to him, she immediately booked a ticket, an expensive ticket, because it was at the height of summer and in short notice, and went to pick him up. And when he came here, he accepted exactly the same behavior that he did previously. Then wasn't interested in doing anything. All he would do was just be withdrawn on playing computer games or watching television shows, and that was his life until last year, when he was again became irrational, because he started to obviously develop some problems with his leg, and already before that he started to think that there was a plot against him to kind of bring him down as a person. So he would go out, and my mother says he would be paranoid about anybody that he perceived to be negative towards him. It was like it was part of a plot against him to bring him down. And even the health problems, he was starting to blame that there was a plot against him, and people were pretty much cursing him to such an extent that it was their fault that he was developing problems in his irrational mind. And it got to the point last year where he went out with I think he was in such emotional turmoil and distress and anxiety. He wasn't sleeping anymore. He wasn't eating anymore. And one day, he just opened the door. He said he had to leave. He had to leave the home, and he damaged some of the neighbors' glass windows and car windows. And eventually I had to pretty much, I just said, you know what, I need to call somebody to try to calm him down. So I had called the police, and the police did try to calm him down. Say, let's book you to a doctor, but he was having none of it. He said no, you have to go to the hospital. And in the end, they pretty much, he was moaning and crying, and he had to go to the hospital. And anyway, they had to kind of, restrain him physically, because he was he was so agitated, crying. And then, he cursed at my mother and them for 15-20 minutes. Eventually, they had to call a van. It was 4 or 5 officers, and they brought him to this, mental health hospital facility. And that's where he's been for the first 5 months of the year, until it got to the point where they give him some medicines to calm him down. And as a result of that, these medicines are now kind of keeping him under control. They're keeping him calm in a way that at least emotionally he's not acting irrationally as much. But he's still very passive. He still doesn't seem to be interested in doing much or engaging with people. But at least he's more manageable. My mother doesn't have to worry that he's going to have an emotional outburst where he goes out and causes issues. But it's been a very stressful period of my life here, and I must admit I didn't enjoy 1 year of living in this country. It's just been a very, very lonely, isolating, and distressing experience, because all I experienced here was isolation, bullying, lack of job opportunities, and also sick family members. I'm to live with mentally unsound and incapable family members, including my twin brother, who said, who was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 2009, and then he decided to just hate everybody, and he just used to throw abuse on me, and it's just been that way. And I just felt like basically in survival mode, nothing more than that, just trying to make the best of a bad situation. But let me know if you experience anything like this, whether it's through relationships or through your parents or through bullying at school, and how you've endured it or coped with it. Be keeping an eye on the comment section.